Are you literally throwing money away every time you restock your inventory? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to fix exactly that. I am so thrilled to have you here for the ultimate guide to unlocking tax-free inventory purchases in Pennsylvania. You know, if you're running a retail or e-commerce business, managing your margins isn't just important, it's pretty much everything. So today, we're taking a critical piece of state bureaucracy and breaking it down into a really simple, straightforward process, all so you can keep more money right where it belongs in your business.
Let me ask you a question right out of the gate here. Are you currently paying unnecessary sales taxes on the inventory you're buying to resell? Honestly, think about it. If you're a retailer, maybe an e-commerce seller, or even a wholesaler, and you're handing over sales tax to your suppliers for items that are ultimately destined for your customers' shopping carts, you are actively bleeding valuable profit margin. It's like a leaky bucket. And the crazy truth is, you absolutely don't have to be doing this.
Depending on where your goods are actually delivered in Pennsylvania, that unnecessary tax is eating up exactly 6 to 8% of your profit margin on every single purchase. Just imagine that compounding over an entire year. That's enough to hire help or launch a new product line. The Pennsylvania Resale Certificate is literally your legal tax-free pass to better margins. It lets you buy products tax-free with the understanding that you're going to resell them and collect that tax from the final consumer. It is, for sure, a total game changer for your bottom line. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with the Pennsylvania Resale Certificate itself, look at eligibility requirements, walk through the step-by-step application process, cover maintaining compliance, point out some great local resources, and wrap up with our conclusion. Starting off with Section 1, the Pennsylvania Resale Certificate. Let's look at what it actually is and exactly why your business needs it. So, Pennsylvania uses what's called a destination-based sourcing system. Basically, this means the sales tax rate you pay is based entirely on where the buyer receives the product. Now, the statewide base rate is 6%, but say your inventory is delivered to Allegheny County, well, that bumps up to 7%. Delivered straight into Philadelphia, you're looking at a full 8%. By using a resale exemption, you are saving this exact percentage of capital on all your inventory purchases, depending on your specific region. Now, you might be wondering what this actually looks like. What's really interesting here is that Pennsylvania doesn't issue some fancy standalone reseller permit card with a gold stamp like you might see in other states. Nope. Instead, they use a self-executed document. It's called Form REV 1220. It's essentially a multi-purpose exemption certificate. As the business owner, you just fill this form out yourself and hand it over to your supplier. That piece of paper is your proof that you're legally permitted to buy those specific goods tax-free because you plan to resell them. To clear up any beginner confusion right away, I want to explicitly break this down into a crucial two-step dance. Because no, you cannot just download Form REV-1220 off Google and hand it to a vendor. It doesn't work that way. Step 1, you have to register with the state first to get an active 8-digit Pennsylvania sales tax license ID. Then, Step 2, you take that unique 8-digit number and plug it into Form REV-1220. That is what actually makes the certificate legally valid. It's super simple, but you gotta do them in order. All right, moving to Section 2, eligibility and state requirements. Let's figure out who actually needs to trigger this registration process. Let's contrast the two main triggers here. First, physical nexus. This one is pretty straightforward. If you have a physical office, a warehouse, inventory sitting on shelves, or employees physically working inside Pennsylvania, boom, you have physical nexus and you must register. On the flip side, we have economic nexus. This is aimed at out-of-state or remote sellers. If you exceed $100,000 in gross sales delivered into Pennsylvania within the preceding 12 months, you trigger economic nexus. And what's absolutely vital to note here is that Pennsylvania relies solely on that monetary threshold. There's no transaction volume limit, like that rule of 200 separate transactions you might see floating around in other states. Just the dollar amount. Section 3, the application process. Let's get into the execution phase and secure that tax ID and exemption for you. Okay, here are the exact steps to snag that required 8-digit ID. You're going to use the state's free digital portal, which is called MyPath. And let me tell you, this modern system is a breath of fresh air. It completely replaces the old, clunky paper form PA100, which literally used to take weeks to process. Now, you just head over to mypath.pa.gov, select PA Online Business Tax Registration, and click on Sales, Use, and Hotel Occupancy Tax. You'll plug in your standard business details, stuff like your federal EIN and your NAICS code. Hit submit, and usually within 3 to 5 business days, honestly, sometimes even 24 to 48 hours, you'll have your shiny new active 8-digit license ID.
So once you have that 8-digit ID in hand, it's time to download Form REV1220. Now, when you're filling it out, you're going to face a choice between a unit exemption and a blanket exemption. A unit exemption is perfect if you're just doing a single one-off transaction with a supplier, say a specialized purchase you'll never make again. But if you have an ongoing relationship with a wholesaler, you plan to make multiple purchases over time, you definitely want to check the blanket exemption box. This covers all your future qualifying transactions with that one specific supplier. It saves you the headache of filling out a brand new form every single time you order.
So the absolutely crucial point is making sure you execute Form REV1220 flawlessly. No mistakes here. You must insert your new 8-digit license ID. You must check box 3, which is the one that specifically states property will be resold. Make sure you print the exact legal names and addresses of both your business and the seller. Sign the document, date it, and listen closely because this is the most important part. You give this form directly to the vendor you're buying from. Under no circumstances should you mail this to the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. The seller is the one who keeps it on file. It's their proof to the state of why they didn't charge you tax. Which brings us to Section 4, maintaining state tax compliance. We've got it. Now let's keep your exemptions valid and perfectly legal. Let's just rapid fire through some really common audit traps that can instantly ruin your tax-free setup. First off, precision is mandatory. If you leave even a single field blank on that RV1220, it is instantly voided under an audit, just like that. Second, your Pennsylvania sales tax license is not forever. It has to be renewed every 5 years. If you let it expire, all your blanket certificates suddenly become invalid. Third, and this should go without saying, never ever use a resale certificate to buy items for your own personal consumption or even for your business's internal use. It is strictly for inventory meant to be resold. And finally, if you happen to be a seller accepting these forms from your clients, you are legally obligated to keep that RV1220 on file for at least 4 years. On to Section 5, local resources and support. Let's talk about where to go if you happen to get stuck in the weeds. Hey, bureaucracy can be confusing, but if you hit a wall, there are some highly trusted official government resources where you can get direct support. The MyPath portal itself actually has some really comprehensive help guides and video tutorials built in. If you're someone who just needs to talk to a real human being, the PA Department of Revenue hotline is fantastic for registration questions. They also offer a telefile system if you prefer managing accounts over the phone, and the PA Business One-Stop Shop, that is just a phenomenal central hub for literally all things related to operating legally and smoothly in the state. And here we are at Section 6, our conclusion and a quick professional disclaimer. Let's wrap up our final thoughts on the PA Resale Certificate. While this explainer has given you the structural blueprint you need to get started, I do need to remind you to always consult with a tax professional, CPA, or legal advisor. You want to tailor this process to your specific business structure to ensure total airtight compliance. But look, you now have the knowledge to take absolute control of your margins. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Are you going to let an outdated fear of a little paperwork eat up another 8% of your hard-earned profits this year? Take action on your tax compliance today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep optimizing that business, and I will see you next time.